Des Moines doesn't look like a place where evil thrives. It looks like a place where it wears a church smile and waters the geraniums. By the fall of 1996, the corn had gone brittle and the sky had two moods, dishwater and bruised. When the town's golden girl vanished and left behind a bloodied cheer skirt and a cassette labeled Confessions, the local police chief made a rare choice. He didn't call the state. He called a man from New York, a detective named Miles Harrington, whose name still lingered in the right precincts and the wrong headlines. Miles didn't believe in miracles or monsters. He believed in leverage, in patterns, in how people sound when they lie. Des Moines wanted a quiet cleanup. The tape wanted a stage. Somewhere between those wants, a girl's last messy decision had been stolen and rewritten by someone meaner. The Devil in the Cornfields by 10 Chapters Studio. Chapter 1. Third Rail of the Corn Belt. The first thing Miles noticed stepping off the plane was the smell wet soil and diesel, like the earth itself ran on bad fuel. Everyone at the gate clocked him with the same look. Not from here, probably trouble. He called Chief Delaney from a payphone that still swallowed quarters. "You're early," Delaney rasped. "Plane didn't dare be late. You got me a car?" "Keys at the desk. Buick that wants to retire. Don't get cute with the press." "Not my type," Miles said. It used to be true. The Buick wheezed out of the airport, pale blue and tired. Downtown Des Moines looked like a city rehearsing being calm streets, scrubbed too clean, banners congratulating the high school band, a church marquee promising Harvest Sunday is coming. Miles had never liked that word, harvest. It always meant someone was getting cut. The station looked like a post office that had surrendered to beige. Inside, Chief Delaney waited behind sandbags of paperwork, barrel-chested, red-faced, the kind of man who buried scandals with a handshake. "You, Harrington," he said. "Thought you'd be taller. Taller men fall harder." Delaney didn't smile. "Scene's intact, skirt, tape, everything. We didn't leak the label." "Good. Don't lie to me and we'll get along fine." They drove through the flat sprawl to a gravel road stitched between fields. The horizon went on too long. "Why me?" Miles asked. "Because my last guy stepped on a rake in front of the cameras," Delaney said. "And because my daughter reads about you in those crime magazines. Says you don't scare easy." "She should read something happier." The scene was a drainage culvert 2 miles past where the sidewalks quit. Police tape clung to weeds. A deputy stood guard, young and sweating through his jacket. On the concrete lip lay a cheer skirt. Blood stiffened at the hem, folded almost neatly. A cassette player sat in an evidence box beside its cracked lid, label scrawled in block letters, Confessions. "Holly Raider," Delaney said. 16, cheer captain, preacher's daughter, perfect on paper. Miles crouched by the culvert. "This was arranged," he said. "Jogger found it yesterday at dawn," Delaney said. "Said the radio was still on." "The radio?" Delaney nodded toward the player. "We listened. You should, too." The deputy pressed play. A girl's voice spilled out, thin, nervous, recorded too close to the mic. "My name is Holly," it said, "and I did something bad. I lied about what he did to me. I wanted him to notice me, then I wanted him to stop. I wanted him to pay." Static rasped like a match struck wrong. Delaney clicked it off. "She names people, boyfriend, youth pastor, father." Miles straightened, looking toward the culvert's dark mouth. "You think she made the tape?" "Maybe. Handwriting matches her school notes, but the recording stops and starts 2 rooms, maybe 2 nights. So someone edited her confession." Delaney looked tired. "Maybe she ran away. Maybe she's dead. I need this quiet." "Quiet's not how truth sounds," Miles said. The fields around them whispered in the wind. Corn husks rattled like bones. The folded skirt bothered him. It was too deliberate, too polite for chaos. Whoever did this wanted the town to look, then argue about what they saw. Her father says she never came into the church that night, Delaney said. Who drove her there? Her friend. Dropped her off after practice. Nobody saw her again. Miles could already feel the walls of the town closing its church, its diner, its gossip lines humming through telephone wires. I'll want to talk to all three: boyfriend, youth pastor, father, separately, no warning. Delaney sighed. You're gonna tell me what you're thinking? I'm thinking someone knows what happens when a girl accuses a man in a place like this, Miles said, and they're using that noise as camouflage. Meaning? Meaning the tape isn't the confession, Miles said. It's the performance. They walked back to the car. The deputy watched them go, one hand on his belt like it was armor. You got a place to stay? Delaney asked. Whatever's close to where people talk too loud. Amber Motor Lodge smells like soap and secrets. Miles paused by the Buick, looking once more at the culvert yawning behind them. Good, he said. I've worked with worse. End of chapter. Chapter 2, The Amber Motor Lodge. The Amber Motor Lodge looked like a place built for short stays and long regrets. Fluorescent tubes buzzed like dying insects above the parking lot, and the sign's missing O left it promising Amber M. Tor Lodge, which somehow felt more honest. Miles checked in under Harper. Old habit. The clerk was a kid in a Hawkeye's sweatshirt with a mullet and too much gum in his mouth. Business or pleasure? The kid asked. Miles gave him a look that answered both. Room 8 smelled like bleach and heartbreak. Thin curtains, thicker dust. The carpet was older than the clerk, and the TV buzzed even when it was off. He tossed his bag on the bed, pulled out his notebook, and set the tape recorder on the table like a snake he wasn't sure was dead. He pressed play. Holly's voice filled the room. I didn't mean to lie. I wanted him to notice me, and then I wanted him gone. He said God sent me to test him. I believed him. Click. The sound of the button being pressed mid-sentence. When her voice returned, it was quieter. If they find this, I want them to know I didn't mean for it to happen that way. Miles paused the tape. That way vague, rehearsed like someone trimming her sentences for someone else's approval. He rewound, listened again. Same inflection. Someone had guided her, or cut her down to sound repentant. He scribbled a note. 2 voices, her words, someone else's hand. He stepped outside. The night was Iowa flat, the sky low and yellow from sodium lights. The road beside the motel stretched toward nothing. Across the street, a diner stayed open for truckers and ghosts. He crossed over. Inside, the air was thick with fry oil and gossip. The waitress was middle-aged, weary, and suspicious of men who looked like trouble but tipped well. Her name tag read, Betty. You from out of town, she said, not a question. Just passing through. That's what they all say. He ordered black coffee and listened. 2 men in overalls at the counter were talking about the case. Everyone was. They say she ran off with that boy, one said. Nah, girl like that? Her daddy'd track her to hell and back. Maybe that's where she went. Betty caught him eavesdropping and smirked. If you're here about the Raider girl, you're late. Everyone's already judged her. Miles stirred his coffee, though it didn't need stirring. And what's the verdict? She's either a saint or a slut. Depends who you ask. Betty leaned in closer. But her daddy always gave me the creeps. Preaches loud, tips light. Men like that got secrets louder than their sermons. When he left, the wind had picked up. Cornfields hissed in the dark like they were whispering names. Back in room 8, he replayed the tape from the beginning, slow this time. Around the 20-minute mark, a second sound bled through the hiss, a faint hum, mechanical, regular. He recognized it instantly, a ceiling fan, slightly unbalanced. The kind found in basements or old classrooms, not bedrooms. He jotted a note. Basement, church, check. Then near the end, something else. A male voice barely audible, almost erased. A low, say it again. Then Holly repeating, "I wanted him to pay." The words came out flatter, detached, like she'd been coached. Miles leaned back in his chair. Someone had been in the room with her when that line was recorded. Someone who needed her to confess to what, or for who, he didn't know yet. The phone on the nightstand rang, startling him. He let it go 3 times before answering. Harrington. A pause. Then a man's voice, low and sharp. "You don't belong here, detective." Miles stayed quiet. The voice continued, "This isn't New York. We clean our messes different." Click. He stared at the receiver a long moment. Then he smiled without humor. "And yet you called." He checked the line. No caller ID, no record. The motel clerk swore no one had come through the lobby. Small towns always said that. Miles pulled back the curtain. The parking lot was empty except for his Buick and a pickup truck with a cross decal. He noted the plate. Then he looked at the cassette player still spinning silently on the table. He pressed play again. This time, right after Holly said, "I wanted him to pay," he caught it, a faint rhythmic tapping underneath her voice. Not a fan. A heartbeat of sound, metallic and steady. He turned up the volume. Tap, tap, tap. Then the girl's final words. "Please stop the music." The tape clicked off. Miles sat motionless. Outside, the wind pressed against the motel window like someone testing a lock. He reached for his notebook and wrote one last line before turning in. "Someone's playing a different song, and I just heard the first note." End of chapter. Chapter 3, Sunday Faces. Morning came grey and heavy, the kind of sky that promised nothing and kept its word. Miles drove to Mercy Chapel with black coffee burning through him and the tape still whispering in his head. The church sat on the edge of town like a warning white steeple, Gold Cross parking lot half full of pickups and polished sedans. Thursday morning, yet people moved in and out as if it were Sunday. Guilt always draws a crowd. A secretary in a pink sweater greeted him with a smile that belonged to someone who had practiced kindness until it calcified. "You must be the detective," she said. "Pastor Rader's expecting you." The pastor's office smelled of lemon polish and staged humility. Rader stood by the window, tall, broad, the kind of man who filled a pulpit with voice alone. He shook Miles's hand like a man testing strength, not greeting. "Chief Delaney said you'd come sniffing around." "Just looking for the truth," Miles said. Holly's tape raised some questions. Rader's jaw tightened. "That tape is a forgery, the devil's work. My daughter would never say those things." "You've heard it?" "Of course I've heard it. Everyone has. Small towns are rumor mills with hymns." Miles sat without being invited. "She recorded in 2 different rooms. Do you recognize the background? The hum, maybe?" Rader's eyes flicked once too fast. "No. Someone was with her. Male voice says, say it again. Ring any bells?" Rader's smile cracked. "You think I hurt my daughter?" "I think someone wanted her to sound like she was lying," Miles said. "That's different." Rader stepped closer. "You've been in town a day, detective. You don't understand faith or family here." "Faith I understand," Miles said. "It's family that gets messy." As Miles stood to leave, Rader's hand shot out, gripping his arm too tightly. "You dig in the dirt long enough, you'll find everyone's footprints, including yours." Outside, the air felt colder. He wrote one note in his pad. Defensive, too early, hiding fear, not guilt yet. Next stop was the boyfriend. Jason McVeigh varsity jacket, nervous eyes. Delaney had arranged the meeting at the police station, neutral ground. Jason sat hunched over the table, picking at a hangnail. "I didn't kill her," he said before Miles had spoken. "Good to clear that up," Miles said. "Tell me about Monday." "We had practice. She was quiet. Said she had to meet her dad at the church." "She mentioned being scared?" Jason hesitated. "Not scared, just tired. Like she was pretending all the time. Said everyone wanted her to be perfect." Miles watched him twist the ring on his finger, a silver cross. "You listened to the tape?" Jason's face went pale. "Yeah, once. Couldn't finish it." "Why not?" "Because that's not her. She sounds empty." Holly had a spark. That voice didn't. Miles leaned forward. "Then who do you think made it sound that way?" Jason swallowed. "You ever been to Mercy's youth center down in the basement?" "No." "There's a room there used for band practice, church stuff, soundproofed. Holly used to sing there after hours. Said she liked how the walls swallowed her voice." "Who had keys?" Miles asked. "The pastor and the youth guy, Nate." Miles scribbled a name, Nate Basement Room. When Jason left, Delaney stepped in, looking more harassed than before. "Press wants a statement. I told them nothing." "Keep telling them that," Miles said. "I want to meet the youth pastor next." Delaney grimaced. "He's popular, runs softball leagues, Sunday schools. People love him." "People love Ted Bundy, too," Miles said. Nate Williams met him in the church hall, sleeves rolled up, smile shining too hard. Early 30s, clean cut, the kind of guy who made confessions sound like friendship. "Detective Harrington," he said, "I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." "Most people do," Miles said. They walked to the youth center, an annex behind the chapel. The basement smelled of paint and air freshener trying to cover mildew. Instruments stacked against the wall. A single ceiling fan turned with a soft, uneven hum. Miles's pulse ticked. "This where they practiced?" Nate nodded. "Kids played down here all the time, and Holly too. She had a lovely voice. Recognize this sound?" Miles switched on the recorder, playing a few seconds of the tape. The hum matched perfectly. Nate's eyes darted toward the ceiling fan before he caught himself. "A lot of places have fans, Detective." "Sure," Miles said, "just not with that hitch every third spin." Nate laughed lightly, too quick. "You think I killed her?" "I think you recorded her." "She came to me for help," he said sharply. "She was scared of disappointing her father. That man's temper could split wood." "So you helped her by making her confess on tape?" Nate didn't answer. Miles studied him for a moment. "If you know where she is, this is your chance to save her story before someone else finishes it." Nate's jaw flexed. "You have no idea what kind of girl she really was." Miles smiled thinly. "That's what everyone says before I find the body." As he walked out, the church bells rang noon loud, sharp and false. End of chapter. Chapter 4. The Basement Choir. The basement of Mercy Chapel didn't look like sin. It looked like Sunday school storage. Folding chairs, hymnals in cardboard boxes, a vending machine that hadn't worked since Clinton's first term. But the air carried something underneath. Mildew, sweat, and fear baked into the paint. Miles let the door shut behind him. The noise from upstairs vanished. The ceiling fan turned lazily overhead, the same offbeat rhythm he'd heard on the tape. Every third spin came with a tired click. He took out his recorder, played a few seconds of Holly's voice. The hum matched perfectly. He scanned the room. Instruments stacked in one corner, a dusty drum kit, a few electric guitars with missing strings, a microphone stand leaning like a drunk. A single wooden chair sat in the center, wrong in its isolation. Someone had moved everything else aside to make space. He crouched beside it. Tiny scuff marks on the floor, circular, repetitive. She'd been pacing, nervous, then sitting still, maybe forced to. He stood, looking toward the wall where paint flaked in faint rectangles. Picture frames once hung there, now gone. Clean outlines left behind. He ran his finger along the edge. Dustless. Recent. "Someone tidied up," he muttered. Footsteps creaked on the stairs. He straightened, hand brushing his coat where his badge used to be before New York politics had filed it away. It was Nate. The youth pastor's smile was gone now, replaced with something wary. "Chief said you'd be down here," he said. "You shouldn't be alone in a church basement. Bad optics." "Optics don't bother me," Miles said. "Truth does." Nate came closer, trying to seem casual. "You're wasting your time. Holly wasn't hurt here. She came here to sing, to clear her head. "And record confessions?" Miles asked. Nate's jaw tightened. She was troubled. "You people in cities think kids here are simple. They're not." She played games. She liked control. Miles studied him. "Funny thing about control, the ones who preach against it usually want it most." "Careful, detective," Nate said. "You don't know this town." "I'm learning fast." Miles's gaze drifted to the vending machine. One of its side panels was loose, screws half-turned. He tapped it lightly, hollow. "What's in there?" "Probably mice," Nate said too quickly. Miles pried it open. Inside, wedged between wiring and the back panel, was a small cassette wrapped in tissue. Label smudged but readable. Confessions, Part 2. He held it up. Nate's face emptied. "Must have dropped that," Miles said, sliding it into his pocket. Nate took a step forward. "You can't just take evidence." "Then call the cops," Miles said. "Oh, wait, they already did." Nate's lips thinned, but he didn't move. The fan clicked above them, slower now, as if listening. Miles brushed past him, heading up the stairs. "Tell the pastor I'll return the favor when he stops lying about his daughter." Back in the Buick, Miles drove to the motel with the new tape sitting on the seat like a live grenade. The afternoon light cut the sky into shards. He felt that familiar pulse of curiosity, the kind that had cost him his badge but kept him breathing. At the Amber Lodge, he locked the door and set up the recorder. He pressed play. Static first. Then Holly's voice again, quieter, trembling. "He said it would save me. He said I had to say it out loud. He said my words would make the truth right." Then another voice, male, calm, steady. "Good, now again, tell them who you lied about." "I lied about my father," she whispered. Silence. Then a slap sharp enough to make the tape distort. Holly sobbed. "I didn't mean it." The man, "Say it again." Miles froze. The voice wasn't Nate's, it wasn't Jason's either. He rewound, listened twice, deep, resonant, confident. A man used to commanding a room. Pastor Rader. Miles exhaled through his teeth. So the holy man liked his confessions scripted. At the end of the tape, Holly's breathing slowed, almost peaceful. Then a faint scrape of a door, footsteps fading, and a sound like water dripping, or crying through walls. The cassette clicked off. Miles leaned back, staring at the stained ceiling. He'd heard too many false confessions in his life, but this one had been rehearsed to perfection. Rader hadn't been trying to expose a lie. He'd been rewriting his own story, turning his daughter into the sin. He wrote in his notebook, "Tape 2 confirms control, Rader directing." Holly terrified. "Nate knows, find where this was taped." A knock at the door cut through his thoughts. 3 slow, deliberate taps. Miles rose silently, hand near his pocket knife. When he opened it, no one was there. Just an envelope on the floor, unmarked. Inside, a single photograph. Holly, smiling in her cheer uniform, standing beside her father. On the back, in thick black ink, "She knew too much." Miles looked up at the dark parking lot and muttered to no one, "So do I." End of chapter. Chapter 5. The Root of Mercy. By Friday morning, the sky had turned the color of dishwater and regret. Miles parked outside Mercy Chapel again, envelope tucked in his coat pocket. The church looked cleaner than truth ever did. White siding scrubbed spotless, flowers arranged like soldiers. Inside, the air hummed with rehearsed calm. A prayer circle of women paused mid-hymn as he entered. They watched him with the same politeness they reserved for funerals. Rader's office door was half open. The pastor was behind his desk, Bible spread like a shield. He didn't look surprised. "Detective, come to confess?" "Already did years ago," Miles said. He dropped the photograph on the desk. "You recognize it?" Rader's eyes flicked to the picture, then back to Miles. "My daughter, beautiful girl." "Back says otherwise." Miles flipped it over. "She knew too much." "Someone's warning me, maybe you." "I don't write in threats, detective. I preach in mercy." "Mercy looks different where I'm from." Rader folded his hands. "You've been listening to that second tape." "You mean the one you made?" Miles said. For a split second, something cold passed through Rader's eyes. Then the preacher's smile returned. "You think you're clever. That tape is a fabrication. Nate's been meddling again." "Maybe, but your voice doesn't lie." Rader leaned back. "The Lord forgives false witness, Mr. Harrington. I'd suggest you learn the same restraint." Miles stood. "I'll save forgiveness for last." As he left, he noticed something new. A fresh padlock on a side door labeled Maintenance. The paint around it was still tacky. Outside, he waited until Rader's Buick pulled out of the lot, heading toward the highway. Then Miles walked back, found a broom closet near the choir room, and pried open the side door with a screwdriver. It opened to a set of stairs, descending into stale darkness. The basement beneath the basement. The air grew colder as he descended. The concrete walls narrowed, lined with shelves of old communion trays and dusty hymnals. A single light bulb hung from a wire, swaying gently. Beneath it, a wooden table. Stains ran down its legs like old tears. He clicked on his flashlight. The beam caught a tape recorder newer than the others, and a small metal cross nailed into the wall behind it. The cross was bent. The table was bolted down. He crouched. Scratches marked the floor-faint lines forming initials. H.R. "Holly Rader," he whispered. Footsteps creaked above him. Miles killed the light and waited. The steps paused halfway down. A silhouette filled the stairwell, broad shoulders, calm voice. "Detective?" It was Nate. He held a flashlight of his own, angled low. "You shouldn't be down here," he said. "Then why are you?" "I heard noise, thought maybe vandals." Miles nodded toward the table. "Looks like it's seen worse than vandals." Nate's beam shifted, revealing the scratches. His voice softened. "She came here a lot, said it was the only place God listened." "Did he?" Nate hesitated. "Not the way she wanted." Miles moved closer. "You said she liked control, but that wasn't true, was it? She was controlled." Nate's hand tightened on his flashlight. "You think I let that happen?" "I think you helped him cover it." Nate's breathing changed, sharp, shallow. "You don't know him like we do. He can ruin lives with a word. The whole town bows when he speaks." "So you bowed too." Nate's jaw worked. "He said she was lying. He said he'd fix it. I didn't know." "You knew enough," Miles said. "You hid the second tape." Nate looked up, guilt carving his features. "I was protecting her memory." "You were protecting yourself." The pastor's voice echoed from above, faint but carrying. "Nathaniel, where are you, son?" Nate flinched. "You need to leave," he whispered. Miles stayed still. "Not yet." Rader's steps started down. Nate turned to face the stairwell, blocking the light. "Go," he hissed. "Please." Miles ducked behind a pillar as Rader reached the bottom. The pastor's shadow stretched across the wall, a giant made of sermon and threat. "What are you doing here?" Rader demanded. "Cleaning up," Nate said quickly. Rader's tone softened fatherly. "Terrible. You've done enough cleaning, son. Go home. I'll finish this." Nate's flashlight wavered. "Yes, Pastor." As he climbed back up, Rader lingered, humming a low hymn. He set a small object on the table, something metallic that caught the faint light. Then he whispered, "Forgive her," and turned off the bulb. Miles waited until the footsteps were gone, then crept forward. On the table sat a ring, a silver cross, same as the one Jason had worn. Only this one was engraved inside. "To Holly forever." Miles pocketed it. "Looks like Jason's forever ended early," he muttered. As he climbed out, sunlight hit his face like an interrogation lamp. The church bells began to ring, too loud, too proud. Miles didn't look back. He had a dead girl's ring, 2 tapes, and a preacher who'd built his church on a lie. And now he knew what kind of harvest this town was really waiting for. End of chapter. Chapter 6. The Boy Who Lied. Jason McVeigh lived in a ranch house on the edge of town, where lawns were trimmed but dreams weren't. Miles parked out front as a soft rain began to fall, steady enough to make lies sound smaller than they were. Jason opened the door, pale and bleary-eyed. "Detective," he said, already defensive. "Morning," Miles replied, stepping inside. "I need to talk about your jewelry habits." Jason frowned. "What?" Miles held up the ring, silver, engraved to Holly forever. "Recognize it?" Jason's breath hitched. "That's hers. Where'd you get it?" "Basement under Mercy Chapel." Jason paled. She hated that place, said the walls made her dizzy. "They made her worse than that," Miles said. He studied the boy's restless hands, tapping fingers. "You fight that night?" Jason hesitated. "We argued about her dad, about how he treated her, but she was alive when I left." "You sure?" "I dropped her off at the church around 9. Said she needed to tell him something before he left for a retreat." "Tell him what?" "She didn't say. Just that it was about Nate the youth guy, something she saw." Miles leaned back. "You said she was tired, pretending all the time. What was she pretending about?" Jason's voice cracked. "You think I hurt her?" "I think you're lying to yourself about how much you loved her." Jason slammed his hand on the table. "You don't get it. Everyone worships her father. You cross him, you disappear. Holly said she had proof recordings, said if anything happened, they'd tell the truth." Miles's pulse quickened. "She recorded him?" Jason nodded. "Said she'd hidden the tape somewhere safe." "Where?" "She just said the truth was under Mercy." "Under Mercy, literal, not poetic." Miles turned to leave. Jason grabbed his sleeve. "If she's still alive, tell her I didn't mean to tell anyone." "Tell her yourself," Miles said. The rain had thinned by the time he reached the diner. Betty was behind the counter, refilling mugs like a priest handing out penance. She looked up and read his face. "You look like someone who just realized the sermon's a lie." "Close enough," he said. She leaned in. "You should talk to Ellen Rader." "The mother?" Betty nodded. "Comes by late, doesn't sleep. You'll find her behind the church blue shutters. She's the only Rader who still tells the truth." The Rader house was neat in a fearful way. Curtains drawn, air too clean. Ellen opened the door before he knocked, eyes hollow but sharp. "You're the detective," she said softly. "Yes, ma'am, I need to ask about Holly." "I figured." The living room smelled of lavender over rot. Family photos lined the mantel. Rader grinning, Holly glowing, Ellen always half turned away. "Your husband home?" "Church meeting," she said. "He's always gone somewhere important." Miles handed her the photograph left at his door. "You've seen this before?" She turned it over, reading the back. "She knew too much," she whispered. "Yes, she did." "What did she know?" "She came to me that night," Ellen said, voice trembling. "Said she found out why the church books didn't balance. She'd found recordings not of her, of others, girls from the youth group. He called it counseling." Miles felt something cold settle behind his ribs. "You've heard them?" She shook her head. "No, but I saw one once. Label said Mercy Files. He told me they were sermons." He took a slow breath. "Where are they?" Her eyes darted toward the window. "In the sub-basement, locked. He keeps the only key." "Does he know you know?" "He suspects." She reached into a drawer and pulled out a tarnished brass key. "He can ruin lives with a whisper, detective, but maybe you can end it." Miles pocketed it carefully. "You just helped your daughter more than you know." As he turned to leave, she said quietly, "If you find those tapes, destroy them. Don't let anyone hear what's down there." He met her eyes. "Mrs. Rader, I don't destroy the truth, I use it." Outside, the rain stopped. The world felt like it was waiting. Miles looked toward the church steeple rising pale against the clouds. "Under Mercy," he murmured. "Let's see what you buried." End of chapter. Chapter 7. The Mercy Files. The church was empty when Miles returned. Rain had rinsed the town clean, but the street still carried that damp, guilty smell. He parked behind the chapel, where the grass grew thin and the light didn't reach. The brass key Ellen gave him fit the lock, like it had been waiting for him. The door opened onto a stairwell that sank into cold air and the kind of silence that remembers everything. The first basement looked familiar. Storage boxes, choir robes, old chairs. But near the back wall a square outline showed in the concrete, faint as a scar. A small padlock dangled from a metal ring. The key fit again. The hatch creaked open, revealing another staircase wood this time, older, steeper. The smell that rose up wasn't rot exactly, but it was close. He descended slowly. Flashlights sweeping across walls painted a pale, suffocating grey. The space below was small, no bigger than a single classroom. Filing cabinets lined one wall, each labelled in the same tidy handwriting. Mercy, 1989. Mercy, 1990. Mercy, 1991. Miles's stomach turned. The labels ran up to 1996. On the table sat a cassette player and a stack of tapes, each with a name scrawled across it. The first one read C. Marshall, 1994. The second, H. Rader, 1996. He slid Holly's tape into the player and pressed play. At first only breathing. Then a young girl's voice, barely a whisper. He says this will help me. That confession is the only way to be clean. The man's voice followed, unmistakable Rader's. Calm, patient, polished like Sunday silk. You're safe here, child. Say what you did. I didn't do anything wrong. Then say it anyway. The Lord forgives the honest heart. A slap, then a sob. Miles pressed pause. His hand was shaking, and not from fear-rage. He switched to the next tape. The same pattern. Different girl, same voice guiding her into guilt she didn't own. Dozens of lives reduced to sound bites of shame. The church above groaned in the wind. For a second, Miles thought he heard footsteps. He shut off the light and listened. Nothing. Only rainwater dripping somewhere behind the wall. He opened one of the cabinets. Inside were ledgers, donation lists, coded transactions, and a second set of financial records. Rader had been running a personal fund through counseling sessions, accepting cash from families to make rumors disappear. Redemption for sale, Miles muttered. He photographed the pages with his small Polaroid camera, each click echoing louder than the last. He was halfway through the last drawer when something clicked behind him, the hatch shutting. He froze. Footsteps on the stairs, heavy, deliberate. Miles grabbed the flashlight, killed the beam, and crouched behind the table. The door creaked open. A flashlight swept the room. Rader's voice followed, low and calm. You shouldn't be here, detective. Miles stayed silent. Rader's beam passed over the table, the tapes, the open drawer. You think you can come here, dig up lies, and not pay a price? You don't understand mercy. Miles stepped out of the shadows. I understand leverage. For the first time, the preacher flinched. You have no idea what she was capable of. Holly was sick. She seduced people, twisted them. She made me— Say it, Miles cut in. You made her record herself. You made her your scapegoat. Rader's eyes gleamed. She was cleansing the town. Every lie she told she took from others. I gave her purpose. Miles looked at the stack of tapes. You gave her a prison. The preacher's hand moved inside his coat. Miles saw the glint of metal. He ducked as the gun fired, the shot deafening in the concrete room. The bullet tore through the filing cabinet. Miles lunged forward, knocking the gun loose, sending it skidding under the table. They grappled Rader, stronger, heavier, swinging like a man possessed. Confess, Rader hissed, spittle on his teeth. Say you're here to destroy what's holy. Miles slammed his elbow into Rader's jaw. You destroyed it yourself. They hit the wall, the cassette player clattering to the floor and starting to play again. Holly's voice screaming, then gasping, Please stop, Dad, please. Rader froze. The words hung between them, terrible and final. Miles reached for the recorder and let it play another few seconds. The preacher's breathing filled the room, ragged, unmistakable. Then silence. Rader's face broke. He stumbled backward, eyes wide, muttering, "She promised she wouldn't. She said she'd forgive." Miles stood, pocketed the tape, and said quietly, "She just did." He left him there, shaking in the dark. Outside, the rain had stopped, and dawn was leaking through the clouds. Miles walked toward his car, soaked in the silence of a town that didn't yet know its god had fallen. End of chapter. Chapter 8. The Hollow Choir. By sunrise, Mercy Chapel stood quiet, but the silence had changed. It wasn't peace, it was shock holding its breath. Miles parked on the shoulder, watching parishioners trickle in like they were walking into a wake. Word travels fast when a god falls. Chief Delaney was waiting for him at the diner, coffee in hand, jaw set like a man chewing gravel. "You want to tell me what the hell you did?" he said. "Opened a door," Miles said. "Didn't realize it led straight to hell." Delaney dropped a newspaper onto the table. The headline screamed, "Local pastor accused of abuse, police investigate claims." "You talked to the press?" Delaney asked. "Didn't have to. Word leaks from the choir faster than blood from a throat." Delaney's face darkened. "Half this town's in panic. You found something, sure, but if you don't play this careful, they'll turn on you before lunch." "Wouldn't be the first time," Miles said. Delaney leaned forward. "Look, I'm no saint, but this goes deep. Rader's got people in city council, donors, friends in the State House. They'll bury it if they can." "Then I'll dig louder," Miles said. Delaney sighed. "You really don't know when to quit." "That's why you called me." By noon, the church doors were chained shut by police order. The faithful clustered outside, whispering scripture like spells to undo the headlines. TV vans rolled up. Reporters shouted questions. Miles slipped past them, back to his car. He wasn't staying long, just long enough to make sure the truth didn't die on the vine. But then he saw Ellen Rader. She stood near the police tape, coat clutched tight, staring at the locked doors. When she saw Miles, she crossed over. "You shouldn't have gone down there," she said quietly. "You gave me the key. I didn't think you'd survive it." Her voice shook. "He's not done, Detective. You don't understand what he built here. The men who followed him, they believed they were doing God's work." Miles frowned. "You saying someone else helped him?" She nodded. He called them his circle of mercy. Deacons, business owners, teachers. They met after hours. Said they were guiding lost souls. "How many?" 6, maybe 7. They recorded everything. Miles felt the weight of that. "And the tapes?" "They'll come for them," she whispered. "For you." He watched her walk away, small against the swollen sky. At the station, Delaney looked like he hadn't slept. "We brought Rader in. He's not talking. Says the devil's in the details and you're wearing the horns." "I take that as a compliment," Miles said. Delaney rubbed his temples. "He's got a lawyer from Des Moines, high-end. The kind that makes juries forget what words mean." Miles dropped a tape on his desk. "Play that for him." Delaney stared. "You serious?" "Dead serious." He turned to leave, but Delaney called after him. "You know, for a guy on suspension, you sure like making noise." "Noise is how people wake up," Miles said. That night, he stayed in the motel, blinds drawn, tape deck silent. Every sound outside, the hum of tires, the clink of pipes felt heavier now. Somewhere between exhaustion and thought, he realized the case wasn't over. Rader might have been caught, but rot like his never starts or ends with one man. At midnight, the phone rang. He let it ring twice before answering. "Harrington." A woman's voice, hoarse, terrified. "They're burning them." "Who is this?" "Ellen, the tapes Rader's followers. They're destroying them." "Where?" "Behind the church. Please." The line cut. Miles grabbed his coat and gun, tore through the parking lot, tires screaming on wet pavement. By the time he reached the church, smoke was already rising behind it. The sky pulsed orange. He ran around back and saw 3 men in dark coats feeding boxes into a steel drum. One of them turned, Nate. Miles stepped from the shadows. "Evening, Pastor Jr." Nate froze. You shouldn't be here." "You keep saying that," Miles said. "You ever wonder why I never listen?" Another man grabbed a crowbar. Miles drew first. "Drop it." Nate held out a hand. "We're cleansing it," that's what he wanted. None of this was meant for outsiders. "You think burning proof redeems you?" "Truth ruins good men," Nate said. "No," Miles said. "Lies do." He kicked the barrel over. Fire spilled, licking the grass. The men scattered. Miles caught Nate by the collar. "Where's Ellen?" "She ran. They were going to silence her, too." Miles let him go. "Run far, Nate, and pray harder." He watched the fire swallow what was left of the Mercy files, black smoke rising like confession. Somewhere inside the church, a bell rang, once hollow and uncertain. Miles knew what it meant. The truth had been found, but the story wasn't done, not yet. End of chapter. Chapter 9. The Girl in the Firelight. The fire burned out by morning, leaving the ground wet and black. Ash clung to Miles's shoes as he stepped through what was left of the Mercy files. Plastic warped, metal curled, truth turned to smoke. Delaney showed up in an unmarked car, eyes dark behind his sunglasses. "You want to tell me why half the fire department's looking at you like you're the devil?" "Because I got here before they did," Miles said. "And found what?" "Nothing that'll make anyone comfortable." Delaney took a long breath. "Nate Williams is in custody. He says you pulled a gun." "I pulled the truth," Miles said. "He just didn't like the shape of it." Delaney looked past him at the scorched yard. "Ellen Rader's missing." Miles turned. "How long?" "Since midnight. Her car's gone, so's the pastor's lawyer." Miles's jaw tightened. "You think she ran?" "I think she knows something she can't live with." He spent the day chasing shadows. Gas stations, back roads, diners where the coffee tasted like regret. No one had seen Ellen. Every time he mentioned her name, people turned away, like the word was contagious. By dusk, he stopped at the motel to think. The room smelled like smoke now. Even the curtains seemed to carry the town's guilt. He set out what little evidence remained: the ring, one surviving tape, and a photo of Holly smiling like she knew more than the world deserved. He played the tape again. Holly's voice. "He said it would be better this way, that the pain would stop if I stopped talking." Then a faint reply. Not her father this time, younger, nervous. "Holly, please don't do this. They'll find out." "Jason." Miles froze, rewound, played it again. The same voice, pleading, scared. And then Holly whispering, "You said you'd help me." The recording ended with a muffled struggle and the sound of running feet. Miles sat back. He'd been looking at the wrong man. Rader was a monster, yes, but someone else had pulled the trigger on her silence. He drove straight to Jason's house. The boy's mother opened the door, hair in curlers, eyes wide. "Jason's not here," she said before he could ask. "When'd you last see him?" "Last night. He said he was going to see Ellen to make things right." Miles's stomach sank. "Ellen Rader?" She nodded. "She called, said she wanted to meet him, said she had something Holly wanted him to have." Miles left before she finished, tires spraying gravel. The map in his head pieced itself together. Ellen running, Jason desperate, both tangled in a secret that refused to die. He found the car, first Ellen's blue Buick, half hidden off a dirt road leading toward the river. Headlights off, doors open, a shape slumped behind the wheel. It wasn't Ellen, it was Jason. A single gunshot wound under the chin. The gun lay beside him. On the passenger seat, a manila envelope marked Mercy. Miles opened it carefully. Inside was a single photograph. Holly and Jason sitting together on the church steps, her hand over his. On the back, written in trembling pen, "Forgive me." He closed the door quietly, as if Jason could still hear. Police lights washed the trees red and blue when Delaney arrived. "Suicide note?" he asked. "Just guilt," Miles said, "the kind that doesn't leave words." Delaney rubbed his eyes. "You think he killed her?" Miles looked at the body. "I think he helped her die. Maybe not on purpose, maybe she trusted him to help her escape and he panicked. Delaney frowned. You saying she wasn't murdered? Miles shook his head slowly. She was. Just not the way we thought. Raider broke her spirit. Jason broke the rest. Delaney exhaled. Hell of a pair. Hell made them, Miles said. They watched the coroner's van pull away. The night went still except for the crickets, loud and mocking. Case closed? Delaney asked finally. Miles stared into the trees. Cases like this don't close, they just stop bleeding. He looked toward the faint lights of Mercy Chapel, its steeple dark now against the sky. Raiders in custody, his circles scattered, and 2 kids are dead. That's not closure. That's cleanup. As Miles walked back to his car, he felt the town watching from behind its curtains, already rewriting what had happened. By morning, Holly would be a rumor again, her story traded for comfort. He slid behind the wheel and whispered to himself, the truth still down there waiting for someone else to dig it up. The headlights cut through the dark, and Des Moines disappeared in the rearview, one more town that prayed for forgiveness, without ever meaning it. End of chapter. Chapter 10, The Confession That Wasn't. Miles hit the highway before dawn, Des Moines fading in the rear view like a bad sermon. The road stretched flat and endless, cornfields ghosting by in fog. He hadn't slept, hadn't eaten. Guilt had a way of keeping you full. He just passed the state line when the payphone at the gas station rang. He almost didn't answer. Almost. Harrington. A woman's voice, weak, trembling but alive. Detective, it's Ellen. Miles froze. Where are you? Far enough. Her breath rattled through the line. You were right, it wasn't just him, it never was. Talk to me. I left something for you at the church. The confessional booth, 3rd drawer. Ellen. But the line went dead. He stood for a moment, hands still on the receiver, the hum of the dial tone stretching thin as string. Then he got back in the Buick and turned around. Mercy Chapel sat in the grey wash of early light. A crime scene without tape now, just silence. The main doors were still locked, but the side entrance hung loose. Inside, the air smelled of smoke and rain and disinfectant, like someone had tried to wash the sin off the walls. He found the confessional booth in the corner, its curtain half torn. Inside, a small drawer sat beneath the seat. He pulled it open. A cassette waited there, no label, no markings. He slid it into his player, static. Then a woman's voice, not Holly's. Ellen's. If you're hearing this, I'm gone. I thought leaving would fix it, but Mercy doesn't travel well. You were right. Holly didn't kill herself, and Jason didn't kill her either. He loved her too much for that. It was me. Miles froze. I found them that night, Ellen's voice continued. She wanted to run. I told her we could go together, that I'd protect her from him. But she was hysterical, screaming about the tapes, about exposing everything. I was afraid of what he'd do, of what the town would do. I just wanted her quiet for a second. A pause, the faint sound of sobbing. I pushed her, just once, she fell. The floor was concrete, it happened too fast. Jason came later and thought she'd done it herself. I let him believe that. We both did. Because the truth was worse. Miles stared at the floor, the sound of Ellen's voice wrapping around the empty church like smoke. You'll understand, Detective. You said Mercy's just another kind of lie. Maybe you were right. I'm tired of lying. I'm tired of living in his shadow. You'll find the rest where I began, at the river. The tape clicked off. Miles sat there a long moment, the church around him groaning in the wind. Then he stood, pocketed the tape, and walked back into the morning. The river was swollen from last night's rain. Muddy banks, cold current. A single Buick sat parked near the water's edge, door open, keys still in the ignition. Ellen lay half submerged, one hand tangled in the reeds, face calm in the current. The same brass key that had opened every door in Mercy Chapel hung around her neck. Miles crouched beside her, the sun bleeding red over the horizon. "You didn't need to confess," he said softly. "They already wrote your sins for you." He took the key, closed her hand, and stood. Behind him, sirens echoed faintly Delaney's men, late as usual. He looked one last time at the church steeple rising in the distance, then turned toward his car. Hours later, back on the interstate, he pulled into a rest stop and fed Ellen's tape into the recorder again. Her voice filled the car, fragile but certain. "If you ever wonder why people lie, Detective, it's because the truth doesn't forgive." He ejected the tape, stared at it, then tossed it out the window. It landed in the ditch, half buried in mud. Some truths didn't need archives. He drove east, toward whatever city still wanted him. The radio hissed between stations, and for a moment the static almost sounded like applause. Miles smiled thinly. "Case closed," he said to no one. The wind carried the words away, leaving only the road and the faint echo of a girl's voice somewhere in the dark, whispering what every town like this eventually learns. Mercy always costs someone their soul. End of chapter and end of story. Please like and subscribe to support our channel, and to listen to more murder mysteries and investigative stories.